We're on. We are on. This is like a little bit later in the day, so most people are probably out doing things, or no one's is everyone at work today? But I didn't do it this morning, finished from nights this morning, so I wanted to run through the weekly questions that I had in again. So these are the questions that are built up over the week, and it's just easier then to just fire them across at one time, save the video, repost it onto YouTube, and then just build up a bank of questions that way. So yes, Big Josh is on. Big Josh is here. In the barrister. So if anyone does have any other questions while you're here, fire them across and we'll answer them. There's like 4 that I've got to go through that have been asked over the week, so I'm just going to answer them from now. And then if anyone's got any others while we go through, then feel free. Big Nicky's, who's that? Yes, I'm Craig. So the first one that someone asked me was about how often should you be switching up exercises when you're training. So I did write a little post on this a little while ago now, and I think it's almost like it's a personal preference, but for me I feel that if you're going to put in some movements, like the bigger movements, into your training, then once you have completely mastered that movement and then exhausted it in terms of loads, strength through the rep ranges, everything like that, then it's maybe a good idea to start switching it out. But and they're for the big movements, not for things like a bicep curl or tricep work and things like that. You can try and those variations can maybe change. Even so, every session, if you wanted to do like a slight variation, as long as you're still hitting the target muscle, then it's all right. But the bigger compound movements, like your squats, your benches, deadlifts, any of those big movements, whatever variation you do, master it first, and then completely exhaust it in terms of your progression and strength, and then look at changing it after that. So I hope that kind of answered that question. Maybe mastering the basics first, really. Big Bum Man is on. Lewis, check this out. New edition. It's good. It is good as well, like a different kind of texture with the coffee. Sorry, that's a coffee chat thing going on. So the second question that was asked was someone who was struggling. They're struggling to add lean tissue. They're struggling to grow, and the first thing I always ask is like, how much are you eating? Because it usually is like, I don't really know in terms of food wise. So if you have no idea of what you're consuming, then how do you expect to grow? It's the same with dieting. If you're trying to lose body fat, you don't know what your intake is, you're going to struggle. So in terms of trying to add lean tissue, you need to obviously work out where you want to be in your surplus, and then just ram it in consistently like you would do when you're dieting. You've got to be consistent, but the other way around. And if anything, I'll probably say it's a lot harder to put on lean tissue because the amount of food that some people are going to have to eat gets uncomfortable sometimes. And yes, there are times where you're going to be almost feeling like you're forcing food down, but if you want to grow, then sometimes you're going to have to go through that uncomfortable stage. The same with dieting. You want to get quite lean, you need to go through some kind of uncomfortable restrictions to get there. So it just works the other way with trying to grow. Some tips to kind of alleviate that is just maybe just drink your calories. So if you can blend up your food, so not blending up your fucking chicken breasts like some twats do, but like make shakes out of whey protein with some peanut butter. Use whole milk. Milk's a great source of protein. So if you're struggling to get the calories in, use that. Blend it all up, drink it. You can get like 600-700 calories down. So before we sorted out my macros and gave me targets, I thought I was eating plenty. Yeah. See, it's cool. And that's the thing. I'm exactly the same. I was like, I'm eating 3 massive meals a day and then I have snacks, but I was like, actually I worked it out and it was like calorie wise I was in a deficit pretty much. So you look at the amount of food you have to eat in order to grow, and it's from there you can then make a decision on how much you want to push over it. But yeah, use tips like making shakes, and not say your whole diet is made up of shakes. Obviously, make sure you're getting enough macronutrients and you're hitting all your vitamins and minerals. But then from there, add in these higher calorie dense foods to just make up the calories, because eating clean foods for some people to get their whole calorie amount, if you're trying to add lean tissue, is going to be fucking hard. Like if you're trying to make it up out of potatoes and fucking rice, like good luck. it's not the one. So yeah, just use some sort of tips to kind of alleviate the amount of food you're going to have to eat. So I hope that kind of cleared that up. The other question I got asked twice this week was around people who hold water weight and who have some kind of so someone asked me about water retention from like the weekend. So if you go out at the weekend and you might have some foods that you're not usually having, you might have a little bit more food, more carbohydrates rich foods, so you might retain a little bit more water through the week. This weight will then dissipate through the week, which it should do, and you'll be back where you were. So the example is like a cheat meal that people have. They're like, well, you're holding all your water weight from your cheat meal. It's just fucking nonsense. So with that, water retention is a is a thing. Guinness weight as well is definitely a thing, Josh. But that's kind of different in a way, because it's still a macronutrient, so still giving you energy. Anyway, so you'll get this water retention, which would as you're emptying like fat cells or whatever, water then, it's not as basic as this, but water will hang around in the cells, and then they hate the word, but you get like a whoosh effect that like bodybuilders talk about sometimes, where you'll get like this water will leave, and then you'll see that the fat loss. So water can mask fat loss quite a lot. And now this is where people fall down, because they'll be eating in a deficit, they'll be doing everything, like nailing everything, and not seeing any changes in terms of weight. But if and then they will change things too quick. So rather than changing things really quick, you need to just remove that from your mind and just be consistent, and keep consistent until you see that switch, and then the water goes and we lose the weight. And it's just, some people it takes a little bit more time, some people are a bit more prone to holding a lot more water than others. So it's just finding that sweet spot. And there's science behind it, and there is an art to work it out, but everyone again is an individual. So if you've got some clients who are very prone to holding on to water, and others who aren't, but it's just how you manage that. Just do the basics right, get your calories right, be consistent with it, hit your training, get everything else, tick all those boxes, and then everything else will just fall into place. It just sometimes takes a little bit of time. So yeah, water weight, it is a thing. While we're talking on that, actually, there's a cool study, which is like one of the biggest well-known studies out there. They call it Minnesota starvation study or something, which is basically when back in World War I in America, the guys who didn't want to volunteer to go and fight were taken, and they were put into used as a study group in order to see the effects of a low calorie food intake on the human body. They basically gave themselves to science, which is pretty cool. And so they went through, I think it was 6 months started at 1,500 calories, and then they went all the way down to like 1,200. They were doing like real hard labor every day. And these guys suffered from water retention. These guys are eating like fuck all, working their bollocks off, and they were seeing their weight obviously drop, as we know, and then it would just plateau out, and then it would drop a little bit and then plateau out. But then they noticed that when they got the drops, it was sometimes to do with a period, like they might have had like a celebratory meal to get in so far through the study, and then that was almost like it would release some of the like cortisol that builds up, which is like the stress hormone, which then makes us get that water retention. It would release that, so the next day they'd wake up and they'd be lighter. So it just shows that it happens even in those extreme cases where these guys are, you should see the pictures. If you Google it, yeah, Adam's on. If you go and Google it, look at the pictures, and there's so much context around what they did in that study, and it's kind of given it was quite a long time ago now, but it's given us a lot of knowledge about what we know now. So it's a cool one to look at. Yeah, sorry, I rambled on there about it. It's kicking in. It's kicking in. Adam, check this out. It's good. It's a good one. I got and the last question that was asked was around. Well, I got actually sent a link to someone's Instagram page, and they said, "What do you think of this?" And it's a guy who basically promotes fasting. So he does intermittent fasting, and he eats 2 meals a day, and that's how he sells his products or sells his methods. And fasting is a tool, and that's all it should be. It should be seen as a tool, the same way as we do with other things. We use them as tools in terms of tracking macros or removing a certain macronutrient. Everything like that is just a tool. So don't be sucked into thinking that just because this guy's promoting it and he's bigging it up so much and he's got such a big bias towards it, that it is going to work for you. It's separate to lots of other people. So yeah, fasting, it works for some people and then other people hate it. So yeah, just be wary of people who have got a real big bias towards like one certain thing, because it usually means that it's, you know, it's not aimed at everyone as such. It's everyone's going to be slightly different in the way we do things, but it does work really well with people. So if it's something that you wanted to try out, then definitely, you know, give it a try, but then just see how you feel. I've tried it, I've done intermittent fasting, and I've got to be honest, I don't really, in terms of optimal methods for building muscle, it's fucking nowhere near, because you're eating like 2 meals a day. You're just shortening that window. Great for fat loss, but for building lean tissue, no, not at all. But yeah, hopefully that cleared that up. I can't remember the name of the page that it was. It was some kind of Insta star guy. That's it. That's all the questions I had. So I hope that was cool. Hope that they answered some of them. Hope that there was some information there for people. If you've got any others going forward, then again, send them across during the week or the weekend, and then we'll just do it again. Hopefully next week, I think we'll be back on normal time. Yeah, enjoy your Easter and your eggs. If any of you eat protein Easter eggs this weekend, then we can no longer be friends on here. Go and eat real chocolate. Anyway, cheers. See you later.